I'm Marianne Sprague-Dennison, the founder and executive director of Active Discovery. We are a nonprofit dedicated to serving economically vulnerable children through products and programs that lead to active bodies, active minds, and healthy relationships. Because we believe these three things are key in helping these children imagine better possibilities for their lives. One of our programs is our Hometown Heroes video series. These are real stories about real people who have overcome adversity to live lives of great impact.
She's shown me, just be transparent, be honest, own your story, whatever's going on, just own it and come to us with that.
Because she always looks for the good. She always says, I'm a fighter, I've got it inside of me, and I'm going to share that with others, and just maybe, I can make somebody else feel the same way I do.
I am incredibly proud that not just the team that she's building here, but the culture. I am incredibly proud that she is more than a basketball coach. She's so much more than a basketball coach, and I think everyone now is finally starting to see that.
I am pleased to introduce NCAA Division I head women's basketball coach, Doshia Woods. Her story speaks for itself.
Well, my childhood, to start, I was born in Topeka, Kansas, to a single mom who was an addict, both drugs and alcohol. There was three of us, I have an older brother and a younger sister. And growing up initially, when you're a kid, I don't have a ton of memories until I get to about 8 years old. And then I start to realize, okay, I don't know if this is the perfect kind of life setup. My mom had us at 19, 20, 21. She didn't graduate high school. She never had a driver's license. So she was already in survival mode. And then she has 3 kids. So trying to raise 3 kids in the 80s, when, one of the heights of drug addiction, I had a lot of challenges. So we were on welfare. We were on Section 8 housing, often got our clothes or our food from, whatever nonprofit organization. That was one thing that she was good at, is finding somebody that would help us. There would be nights where you'd have, no lights or no food, or we'd just literally be sitting there in the dark. And I remember my brother and sister and we just started getting real creative when it time to just be kids and play games. The team with me now jokes to this day, one of my favorite lifts is the bench and the push-ups. But my brother and I literally would have push-up competitions because we didn't have any toys. So we just really would improvise that way. And I think when I started to realize, I was maybe around 10 years old when I realized my mom didn't have education. I'm in 4th grade kind of doing her work. She was trying to get her GED, and she's in and out of the house. And growing up that way, I learned quickly that I have to figure out how I'm going to eat. I have to figure out how we're going to live. If we're coming home, I remember I wasn't the best student 1st grade through 6th grade. I think if you ask anyone that grew up with me then, they'll say, Doshia was definitely the bully. It didn't matter who you were, if I didn't like you, if I wanted to hit you, if I wanted to be mean to you. And I realized now that was a way to kind of play out everything that was happening at home. My mom, again, because of her addiction, sometimes she'd beat us. She was the best mother she knew how to be. Let me say that. She was the best mother she knew how to be. But a lot of what happened at home, I would go to school, and now that was my chance to kind of bully someone else and to be in charge of someone else. And it was really around 7th grade, I started playing organized sports. Went to middle school, and 7th grade was probably my worst year. Back then they called them discipline referrals or DRs. I had 28 that year. And I remember having 28, you name it, I don't care. It was talking back to the teachers, acting out, class clown. However you wanted a DR, I was giving it to you. I remember at the end of that year, they wanted to have a meeting with my mom, the principal, myself, and it was basically Doshia needs to be in a behavior disorder class. I checked all these boxes to be in a class till they got to the academic side, and they said, but here's our problem. She's too smart to go in some of these classes because they also were mixed classes. I said, I'm really not that bad. I said, you guys just bore me. Here's all of this. So I started quoting different things that happened throughout the year. At the same time that I was introduced to sports, that year, the day of the game, if you got in trouble, you couldn't play. So I knew we played on Wednesdays. I had to keep myself together on Wednesdays. So I usually could avoid Wednesdays. So by the time the meeting ended, going into 8th grade, they said, let's do this. If you get in trouble the week of the game, then you can't play. I played everything, basketball, volleyball, tumbling, and track were the 4 sports. Well, now if I'm doing all of those things, I can't get in trouble if I want to compete. So that really was started to be like a turnaround moment for me of sports at that moment became my outlet. It became a chance where when I'm at practice, I didn't have to think about what we had or didn't have at home. I could just focus on said sport, focus on what coach was saying, and at least give myself an hour of having nothing to think about because I already knew what was in store. I could get beat when I get home for a random reason. There could be no food, and I'm gonna have to figure out how we're gonna eat, things like that. So 7th and 8th grade, but it really was them basically threatening to take sports away from me, threatening to kind of limit my opportunities that way. I was 14 when our house was a drug house, and everyone's basically selling drugs. And long story short, someone's drugs came up missing, so now there's a drive-by at the house, and my mom gets shot. And I just got home from volleyball practice, and they said, you need to get to the hospital, your mom's been shot. And before our house, there was drugs in and out of the house, but people weren't selling. But now we've moved to the point where people were selling out of our house. And I remember thinking, okay, looking at her in the hospital, looking at the bullet holes, looking at the tape, thinking, is this my life? And what's my other option? And I remember just putting everything into 2 black trash bags. And I told my mom, I'm not going to be here when you get out of the hospital, but I'll always come by and see you. But I can't live here anymore. I can't live in this environment. And I think for me and for anyone trying to figure out how do I make a different decision is, again, I found my passion by that point, which was sports. And I knew I couldn't be in the drug house and try to get to practice and be sports at the same time.
It's hard to imagine a more difficult environment for a child. Wow. Yet Doshia has gone on to live a life of amazing impact. As you hear more about how she took control of her situation and improved her life, you'll see how she was physically and mentally active and developed healthy relationships to help springboard her success.
Doshia's resilience is one of the things that I admire about her. She, again, at an early age, took control of her life. She knew, she's like, okay, I can't live here and move forward. I can't be in this situation and live the life I want to live. And she took control of her life and she moved out. She found a place to live. She found a family to live with who welcomed her. It was great. And she continued to do well. She got better grades in school, but she's the one who took control of her life. No one came in and took her out of the home. She recognized this was not a good situation for her, and she's like, I gotta get out. That, to me, is the basis of her resilience, and I admire that.
Around that same time, the local university had a sports camp for low-income kids that I started going to, and that opened up my world because I didn't realize, A, that the university even existed this whole time, but then I had a chance to interact with other athletes, and I remember meeting a player from Alaska, and I said, well, how'd you end up in Kansas if you're from Alaska? So she says, oh, I'm on scholarship. I said, well, what do you have to do to get that? So she's basically just play basketball and, work hard at it and keep your grades up. And that really, that Washburn University, that Lady Blues team really just became kind of my idols in a sense of I wanted to be like them. I knew I had to keep my grades up. And when you're raised in such trauma, when you don't know where you're going to get your next meal from, you don't know, I didn't have a mom that could help me study or things like that. I was thinking, I don't know how I'm going to get there if I didn't play sports, but I knew I needed to get there because this is a whole life that I didn't realize existed. It was really because of that team that I started to kind of focus more on basketball and shift my mindset of if I can stay in school, if I can be halfway decent at basketball. I wasn't ever the best student, and I ended up attending a junior college because I didn't make the grades necessary. And I remember thinking, okay, I can't go to Washburn now, which is basically like a blessing in disguise because I don't know what my life would have been had I stayed in Topeka to kind of continue to be around that same environment that I was raised in. I think I became super intentional. Again, I didn't have the words for it then, but now thinking back, I became intentional about if it's snowing outside, my brother and sister's like, I don't know if I want to go to school. I'm going to walk. I don't care because I wanted to go get that knowledge. Even if I was going to be bad when I got there, I at least wanted to go get to get that. And then when sports became a thing, it was really a way to incorporate. I can let off some steam. I can be aggressive, and I didn't have to necessarily hit anybody, but I could be aggressive on the court, be aggressive hitting a volleyball, be aggressive running in track. And that became a way to kind of let out some of that other anxiety, I guess, that clearly I was feeling as a child. But I think learning early is trying to find something, whether it's books or sports, to motivate me, and then to almost lose myself in that moment, whether it's at practice, in a game, or whether it's in a book, to be able to lose myself in that moment.
No matter what she was going through, maybe in daily life, she had this outlet that she could thrive in, that she could be successful in, that she could grow in, that she could help people grow in. So I think sports for her definitely was an outlet, but one that gave her confidence to help tackle all the other things in her life.
I don't know if I can define Doshia's resilience. It's the greatest characteristic of her. If I look up resilience in a dictionary, there's Doshia's picture. She has shown such grace in all that she has gone through, and she doesn't ever complain about it. You know, she uses that, this is what's happened, but here's where I am now. Here's what I went through. I'm still trying to figure out the whys. I don't know if I'll ever understand the whys, but what I do know right now is I'm in a good place and I'm growing every day. So I think that resilience is something you gotta work on every day. And that grit piece that she has, and that competitive, she's got fire. And I know where a lot comes from, but it's that resilience that continues to keep her moving every day.
Spending so long feeling, especially as a kid, like no one's hearing me when I'm reaching out. A part of my life that I don't talk about often, you know, there's physical abuse. Obviously, there's just traumatic of just not having food, but there was a lot of sexual abuse. And that's a lot of how the writing started for me, honestly, was no one's listening when I'm trying to express what's happening to me. A 9-year-old shouldn't know some of the things that I know, or shouldn't feel some of the things that I felt. And I started writing. The paper always listens, and what I would write, you can't really tell me that it was wrong because I wrote it. Writing became an outlet, and so now later in life, especially having the tools to articulate, that was very therapeutic, whether I'm writing about a particular event that I remember or something I'm inspired pretty much every day about, you name it, whether it's mental health or social justice, but a lot of it just comes from my own struggles. And writing, it has become a way for me to release of just, I don't have to internalize it. Writing is when I write it, then I'm releasing part of it, and it can stay on the paper. I can go back when I'm ready. But writing became a way to release a lot of the trauma that just stays with you, especially when you translate it to the sexual part, right? When the sexual part is happening. I think I was 8 the first time. I think I got in middle school and I was like, okay, I don't think this is normal. I don't think everybody else is doing this. That's when I started to try to tell people, I'm like, no one's listening to me, because I could tell people things that I shouldn't know for someone my age. And so writing became a way of like, the paper has never told me I was lying. It's never told me I was wrong. And my paper always listens, but it was a way to not internalize so much and express myself. I don't want to be negative. So when I have a chance to write it and I go to do my next thing, I can leave it there. I don't have to bring it with me. And when I'm ready, I can come back to it.
Doshia's adversity it's really something that not a lot of people have gone through. She has never, since I've known her, said, woe is me. My upbringing, woe is me. It's always, I get to hear some really good stories about her and her brother and sister. And she focuses on those moments, and sometimes where they were good times with her mom and her family. You don't hear a lot of her talking about the negative side of things. It's always glass half full with her. That's her leadership style. She went through some really, really tough times, and she does not focus on those. So now as a leader, say we're in a game and there's a tough run that we're on, that things aren't going our way, you don't see her falter. She still finds a way to find the good in it. If we lose a game, after the game, no matter what, she tries to find a positive. We leave that locker room every single time after a game, win or lose, with a positive message.
I think she's mastered the art of finding a positive. She says it all the time, like, look for a positive. So, and that was something that I struggled with when I came here. She was very patient with me, and just kind of talked me through, kind of gave me permission to find positive in my own life and, you know, chase after good things and let the past be the past and, you know, just grow and excel where you can. Take this opportunity by the reins.
I have a good friend who always says, win the day, win the day. And I remember when my mom passed, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to win this day because the 24 hours is a long time. I'm going to win this moment. And I use that the same in practices. We didn't have a great drill right now, so you didn't win that moment, but let's win the next moment. So then there's some success. You don't feel like, oh, now my whole day is ruined. It was one bad drill. That doesn't mean you have a bad day. And that's literally how I live my life. And I know they probably get tired of me saying it, but the whole day not everything is negative all the time, unless that's what you're looking for. And then that's almost on you because you're going to be exhausted living that way.
Doshia's mentor style it's a futuristic leadership. She is very much about being the woman that has the seat at the table, and she wants to use her voice there, but she's amazing at moving over just a little bit so that our staff and our players, who are all women also, have an opportunity for their voices to be heard. Basketball brings us all together. But for her, it's about, okay, now what can we do to help mentor, mold, have these women come in as 18-year-olds, and when they leave and they walk across the stage with their degree, that's one of her favorite things, and she just loves that their shoulders are back. They can go conquer the world.
Doshia's been coaching 20 plus years now, and that's a lot of generation of young women. That's a lot of years of young women who have got to play under her, got to know her. And I think the biggest thing that shows what she had, what kind of impact she had in those players' lives, is that they still reach out to her to this day. If she's in a city where one of them is, they get together. They will come and visit, they stay at the house. Like, she is still a part of those players' lives to this day. And I think that proves the biggest impact they've had on them.
You'll see her at any given time take a player for coffee or text or just anything. She wants to make sure that when they're done playing basketball, that the best time for them and her relationship is the years after. It's the weddings, it's the baby pictures, it's the players overseas that are homesick that call her and things like that.
Still look to her. I don't think her job of mentoring is done yet. I think all of her players still to this day still look as a mentor, as a leader, still call her for advice. I think that right there just shows the relationship and how powerful her presence can be and how powerful her leadership and her mentorship can be when it goes past those 4 years in college, past those 4 years of play.
Grace is one that that's been a word probably the last, year or two, is just to show yourself some grace. I think we get in these situations where if it's something new, first day on the job, first day at practice, and I should just know it. You don't just know it. You have to learn something about the people that you're working with or the people that you're working for. So giving yourself that grace period to actually learn, that's one that I hope carries over with them. So I think ultimately in sports, being able to learn how to work with people and together with somebody is huge, and that's what I try to live. I think working with basketball and being a part of a team, it can't be about you all the time in all situations, and our program is 22 people, so that's probably one of the biggest lessons I learned early being in team sports is I don't get my way all the time, and I might have to sacrifice this part of me for the sake of the group, and it's the same in the workforce. I might have to sit this conversation out for the sake of the group, but the teamwork is one that's always at the top, and then to be patient with people. Patience is one that not only with people, but with yourself as well. With our freshmen, we say a lot, just show yourself some grace. It's a new system. You're learning. You went from being at the top to at the bottom. So giving yourself grace to actually learn something new and pick one thing to learn and then try to build on that. I speak very openly to our team that as somebody who is Black, who's gay, and a female, I could be mad every day, right? I could be mad every day, and I could sit out because somebody's always, I can't eat here, I can't shop there. I'm not living that way. To be able to find moments and to find good in situations, it helps me avoid, somebody's always out to get me, or I'm going to be a victim here. I was a victim then, I'm a victim of my environment, but now I have a chance to be a successor of the decisions I get to make. I get to be successful in the ways that I get to decide life for myself. And then to be patient. I want what you have, but I don't necessarily want all the work that comes with it. Okay, well, it might take you 6 months just because it took that person 2 months. Doesn't mean you can't get there. You just need a little longer. Being realistic about the work that you're putting in and what you're trying to accomplish. And you can't expect to be at the top if you're the last one in first one to leave, but you expect to have what, the person's putting in the extra work. So I like to talk about being realistic a lot, just because we can't put ourselves in a situation where I just want this and it's just going to magically happen and I didn't do any work for it. It's a setup. It's a setup. Because life knows, the game knows. Keeping forward and trying to find the light. It's not the light at the end of the tunnel, it's the light in the moment that you're in right now. And that's why I live by, you're gonna find what you're looking for. Moment to moment is how I try to live. Moment to moment is being present. Because if I can't find light in the present, I'm not gonna make it to the end of the tunnel. So I need to find a light in the present. I tell them all the time, my all-time favorite phrase is, you're gonna find what you're looking for. That's literally how I live my life. I'm not one that I don't look for negative things to happen to me. That doesn't mean they don't happen. I look for, if something negative happens, okay, what was the positive in that?
She'll always say, as long as there's still time on the clock, there's a chance. And granted, in softball, we didn't always have a running clock. Sometimes we did. But as long as you're still playing, as long as you're still on the court, there's still a chance. And I think that's what I take out of playing with her or watching her play, is that she will not stop until that buzzer goes off. And even then, she might not have heard the buzzer and she's still going.
Life brings me joy. Growing up the way that I did, where every day felt so hard. Every day felt like, is tomorrow going to come? And sometimes you didn't want tomorrow to come because you didn't know what tomorrow brought. And so what brings me joy now is to see my brother and sister just thriving the way that we are. We worked so hard to survive then, so we can thrive now. Thrive is an acronym for my own personal values, and I try to be thankful, I try to be humble, resilient, intentional. I have a vision and have energy every day. I thrive, literally the word, and then that's how I live. Thriving brings me joy because I say I smile today because little Doshia went through a lot, and she went through a lot, so we can be happy today.
I want to thank Doshia for sharing her life story and for the articulate and heartfelt way in which she let us all in. I'm not sure I'll ever look at the word thrive again without thinking of Doshia's acronym for it. Thanks for watching and learning.